change. Listen, thanks. Nice to speak. Let me speak to Richard Freeman, who's a road traffic solicitor advocate. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Good morning. Are you expecting more prosecutions as a result of this change?
Yes, I am. I mean, what I've heard from the Scottish Courts Administration is that they're already putting measures in place to take account of the fact, in anticipation, that there'll be more people appearing in court by way of police undertakings. So they'll be arrested and they'll be released by the police with a bail condition to appear at court at a future date, maybe 2 or 3 days hence. And the courts are already allocating spaces in anticipation of that happening.
Right.
Excuse me. In addition to that, I understand that they are now going to be bringing prosecutions in the Justice of the Peace Courts, where previously they were all prosecuted in the Sheriff Court. And of course, to do that, they have to give the justices extra powers to deal with these cases.
Right. Is the thought that this would be, people being stopped in the moment and they've had too much drink, or the morning after?
I think it's more likely to be the morning after. I mean, I'm all in favour of measures to assist road safety, but I don't think prosecutions at the lower level is really going to significantly impact on that. What I think it might do is it will make people who have drunk more than just what would now cause them to be convicted to think carefully about when they will be able to drive, because they know that the threshold has been greatly reduced. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the impact might be found, but I don't think that generally speaking road safety will increase just because the prosecution at the lower levels is going to take place.
Right.
Because it could only, if someone has a glass of beer or just over one pint of beer, then that's enough to put them over the limit.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting though, because one of the immediate reactions to this from a lot of people who do feel, well, look, I just want one glass and I'm fine, is that it's kind of victimising those people who are, broadly moderate and sensible people, where actually the problem is the people who really drink to excess. But actually, if the emphasis shifts to the morning after, then it is the people who are drinking to excess, but getting up the next morning and driving, but they shouldn't be.
Yeah, well that's right. I mean, the main difficulty is people might drink up until later night or even in the early hours of the morning, and then they'll go to bed and then they'll wake up and they'll feel fine, and they'll use their own personal judgment in determining whether or not they're fit to drive. Now, that's a key point. Being fit to drive doesn't necessarily mean that they will be below the prescribed limit. I mean, many people can take a lot to drink. Particularly chronic alcoholics can drink all day and all night, and then feel fine very shortly after that, but be tremendously above the legal limit. Whereas people who are more recreational drinkers and drink less frequently will be affected in terms of their fitness a lot more. And there's a separate sense of driving while unfit through drink or drugs, but that's not what this legislation is dealing with. It's providing a bar where you can't cross over in terms of the amount of alcohol you take. Yeah.
Rich, I've got a couple more questions for you, but we've got Bill in Arbroath who's got one for you. Morning, Bill.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks, Bill. How are you?
Well, I've got a bit of a lunch, but I'm not complaining too much.
Good. You've got a question for Richard?
Yes, it's just a legal point,
sure,
which you perhaps clarify for me. Assuming that I went out driving today and was breathalyzed and was found to have a level of 60, then I would be prosecuted and banned from driving in Scotland.
Yes.
The driving licence is administered in Swansea and Wales, and I would not have committed any offence in England.
Right.
So if I was now down in England, where my daughter lives at Newcastle, could I drive there?
No.
I've committed no offence in England.
No, the conviction and disqualification extends to England if you're convicted in Scotland and vice versa.
Well, there you go, Bill. That's
Is there room there for a legal challenge?
None whatsoever.
Right.
No.
Of what they call an open and shut case, I think, Bill. But well done for spotting a potential glimmer there. Richard, when Fred came in earlier, he said that on his drive in this morning, he saw the police just kind of randomly pulling people over. I mean, that was just his assessment of it. I mean, can they just randomly pull you over?
Well, it's a very good question, because the police don't have to have a reason to pull you over. They can pull you over just for a chat or to do a spot check round the vehicle. But what they cannot do is make a requirement of you to provide a specimen of breath unless they have reasonable suspicion that you have alcohol in your body. So effectively what they're doing is they're pulling people over on the basis that they just want to have a vehicle check or a chat, and they're using that opportunity to ascertain if there are any characteristics which would give them cause to have a reasonable suspicion that they've taken alcohol. For example, they would talk to you and smell your breath to see if there's alcohol in it. They would look at you to see if your eyes were glazed, and they would listen to your speech to see if it was slurred. And that would then allow them, as a matter of law, to make the requirement.
But what if you said, no, I'm not going to take your breathalyzer test?
Well, as a matter of law, if you say that and they've got no grounds to suspect that you have alcohol in your body, then that's the end of it. For the police, are not able to do anything.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it will make the road safer, Richard?
You know, as I said before, prosecuting at the lower levels not necessarily. But the fact that people can be prosecuted at lower levels might make them think more carefully about taking more alcohol, because they're now going to have to realise that the legal limit has been reduced, so they're going to have to wait even longer before they drive or take less.
Right, okay. Richard, thank you very much indeed. Let's speak to Paula in Ardrossan. Hi, Paula.
Hi there. Yeah, I just wanted to make a point, really to the gentleman earlier that was quite irate when he was saying that, about being able to drink and drive. I had a partner of 18 years. 4 years ago, somebody that had 2 pints, and this was backed up in court with evidence, that had 2 pints of beer and crashed into my partner. He spent the last 4 years in extreme pain on a daily basis in a wheelchair. Until he passed away this August just gone, with complications from that accident. So I'd just like to say, to anybody, just don't drink and drive at all. I think the limit should be totally zero, because then everybody knows where they stand. They know that they cannot drink and drive. Mm-hmm. And it's, you can't get simple on that. You can't find ways around that.
No.
It's just that simple. It's nothing. And take responsibility for not yourself but other people's lives. I mean, I've lost someone that I've been with 18 years, and I'm devastated by that.
Yeah.
And his life was worth more than a lot more than 2 pints of beer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that is an amount of alcohol that a lot of people would kind of disregard and think it was, negligible. And clearly, in your instance, Paula, or your partner's instance, it was literally life or death. Thank you. A powerful message to kind of remind us as to why we're talking about this at all, because, talking about alcohol and driving, it is a road safety measure. That's the reason that it has been introduced, and if it